What's going on, friends? I wanted to do a follow-up on last week's video about swapping to a crate engine. You guys flooded me with comments and a lot of really good questions about what do I do about insurance? What do I do about my VIN numbers matching? My state requires VIN numbers to match. And I wanted to address some of those issues that you guys brought up. So number one, when you swap to a crate engine, you really have to have documentation. Keep the MSO, keep all of the receipts. Now, I would even go as far as to make a copy of the MSO and the receipt for the engine, and I would keep it with you on the bike along with all the other paperwork that your state requires you to have. Because if you are to get stopped and the police look at the VIN number on your bike and they look at the VIN number on your engine, it doesn't match, you do have proof of ownership and proof of the work being done right there with you. That can get you out of a lot of sticky situations. Now, the other thing that came up was, what about insurance? Honestly, you should probably tell your insurance company if you go from a mild-mannered twin cam 103 to an S&S 124 that's putting out gobs more horsepower. Should you do that? Yes. Does everybody do it? No. Let's just kind of goes back to the whole thing where you could buy an 883 cheaper than a 1200 back in the day. You take that 883, you would change over to a 1200 with a big bore kit, and then still everything about the VIN number says that bike's an 883 and nobody knows the wiser. But I'll leave that up to you if you want to report it to your insurance company or not. Now, before you go and do an engine swap, a great point that was brought up is that some states do require that the VIN number and the engine number match. I'm not familiar with every state and their requirements, but if that's the case, that pretty much is what it is. Now, some states you might be able to get around that if you can provide documentation and get that taken care of. That way, by showing, yes, this is why I swapped the engine, this is why it happened. But for most places, you're not really going to have that problem. Another thing that came up was registering the bike. If the bike is already registered and you just swap the engine out and you're riding it, and just say you decide to sell it, if you were to sell it, if that state requires a visual inspection of the motorcycle before it can be registered to a new owner, that could present some issues. In worst case scenario, yeah, you might just have to put the old engine back in if you were going to sell it. But for most cases and intents and purposes, as long as you have the documentation and showing that you purchased the engine, you made the swap, it's really not going to be an issue. Especially if there's not a visual inspection and you're just selling it to the new owner. Just make sure that new owner gets all the documentation, the MSO and the receipts, so that way they can do the same thing that you did. Now also, depending on which state you live in, emissions might be an issue. Sure, you can put emissions equipment on one of these high-performance crate engines, but you're going to really kill the power. And I don't know of very many people that still run all the emissions equipment on their motorcycles with the catalyzed mufflers and all that jazz, unless you just absolutely have to. Run those lean tunes and keep it like that for a warranty, but for the most part, it doesn't matter what state you live in, unless you get stopped for an inspection. Truthfully, nobody does that. But anyhow, guys, I really appreciated all the feedback we got on that video. I was really impressed with all the comments and questions, and you guys made a lot of good points, and honestly, I just couldn't keep up with all the comments that I really had to make a new video to kind of follow up on a lot of these really good questions that you guys asked. Once again, guys, I appreciate the support. Thank you for keeping the channel going. But guys, I will see you all on Friday with a new video for this week. But I just want to touch base, follow up on that video from last week. But until Friday, guys, you stay safe on the streets, ride smart, dodge the cars, and I'll see you Friday with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.